Hey YouTube, welcome back to Tinker with Tools. Today we are going to be letting AI help us pick a new toolkit, so let's go ahead and get into that on Tinker with Tools. Now the other day I was messing around on one of the popular AI assisted search engines and decided to feed it some tool related prompts and see what it could come up with. So the question I asked it is, what should I have in a basic homeowner toolkit? Now I went with this question because I do want to keep this a little bit simple. I'm not asking it to tell me every tool that I need, but I wanted to give it a little bit of a challenge and see what it came up with. In its response, it listed several common hand tools that I do think every homeowner should have. And then it did also list one power tool, which is a drill. I also wanted to know what kind of brands it would suggest, so I further prompted it to tell me what brands would be good for these initial tool purchases. So with that prompt in mind, I decided I wanted to try and build a toolkit from one of the brands that the AI had actually recommended. I've chosen Husky. We're going to build out a toolkit of the common tools that they suggested, and then I want to see if we can actually get better quality for a better price over at Harbor Freight. Now, a couple caveats. First off, I forgot to get a level. It's one thing that slipped my mind when I was going down the shopping list, and so I'm not going to have a level in there. I've added a light source, or a flashlight in this case, because I do think that that is something that's important for a homeowner toolkit to have. Now, the goal here is going to be to establish a baseline with the Husky tools. In this case, I bought all the tools, totaled up the price, and then when I went to Harbor Freight, I wasn't necessarily just trying to beat the Home Depot price. I was trying to remain under the Home Depot price while potentially improving the quality that I was getting by going with some of their more premium brands. So keep that in mind as we go through these. Now let's get right into the tools. All right, so the first category is going to be that of screwdriver, and if you remember, they did list that I should have a Phillips and a flathead. Instead of going with individual screwdrivers here, I did go ahead and go with this, a Husky 6-in-1 screwdriver. The build quality on this is pretty decent, and I think it's a pretty awesome screwdriver. This is going to be one of the categories where I actually went a little more premium in the pricing. This is going to be the Quinn 11-in-1 screwdriver. Overall, just comparing the quality of the cheaper 6-in-1 option that I had at Harbor Freight, I felt like this was a place where maybe going with something a little more premium would feel nicer. There is about a $5 price difference between these. If I'm being honest, I think this might be the one that you'd actually want to go with. It's the one that feels a little nicer, but if you don't like the plasticky handle, this one does have a little more rubberized grip, and so I could see some people being drawn to that. In terms of quality, I think the Husky might actually be a little bit nicer there. Round two is going to be that of utility knives, and once again, this is one where Husky actually managed to come out and get a cheaper price. This is the Husky Compact Utility Knife. Right now it's priced at $4.97. Overall, I have to say the build quality is top notch here. The drawbacks to this knife, and there are a few, is one, it is a smaller knife, so if you do have large hands, this might feel too small almost. Overall, the way the knife functions is pretty decent, but it doesn't have that familiar flip open that we've come to love so much on like a Milwaukee Fastback. This is a Gordon, and overall it's metal. I don't think necessarily that it's incredible build quality, but it's good enough that I think for the price, even though it is $1 more, and although the Husky is nicer, I think most people are probably going to prefer the size and functionality of this knife to it. So I think this round goes to Harbor Freight. All right, next up is going to be that of pliers. Now, for simplicity's sake, I have limited this down to a single set of pliers. Realistically, I think there are more types of pliers you may want to have in a homeowner toolkit, but I think most basic homeowners are going to know what needle nose pliers are, so that's the one I went with. Now, I messed up a little bit and picked up a 6-inch version over at Home Depot, and unfortunately, they just don't sell 6-inch pliers at Harbor Freight that I could see, at least not at my local one. So if you went with the 6-inch, this is one area where Husky really lost out in price, in my opinion. This was $12.97. If I went with the 8-inch version, it was $13.97, and I was able to get a pretty decent quality set over at Harbor Freight for $6.99. The Husky do open a bit nicer. They operate a little bit smoother. The overall fit and finish of the Harbor Freight is not quite there. They don't open as easily, but I think for a basic homeowner toolkit, this is definitely sufficient quality, and the price savings of $6.99 versus $12.97 for the smaller one, or $13.97, I think Harbor Freight is going to take the cake here. Now we're going to be moving on to flashlights. Now there are a lot of different options for flashlights in the Husky brand, and I found this one kind of in the gift center over at Home Depot. This is going to be $9.88 for a 750 lumen flashlight, and as you can see, it is decently bright. Overall build quality is pretty good. Now over at Harbor Freight, that is one place where I found it difficult to find a comparable quality flashlight for cheaper than this. Braun is their main kind of flashlight, especially when you get up out of the really kind of junk flashlights at Harbor Freight. 590 lumen flashlight, size-wise, is a little bit more compact, but overall very comparable. And when you look at it, the light definitely feels roughly the same. I think the build quality of the light is a little bit more premium. Now that does come at a cost. This flashlight was actually $13.99 compared to the $9.88 that is over at Home Depot with the Husky. So unfortunately, where I went with a more premium flashlight over at Harbor Freight, even though I think this is the flashlight I prefer, it doesn't necessarily perform $4 better than that of the Husky, and so for that reason, Home Depot takes this round. All right, next up is going to be an adjustable wrench. Now this one, once again, comes with a caveat because of some of the Black Friday specials that you do have over in the gift center at Home Depot. I found a 10-inch wrench. This 10-inch one sold individually as $15.97. But right now you can actually get this 3-pack. If I'm comparing just the 10-inch, I went over to Harbor Freight, picked up the Doyle 10-inch, and comparing the two of them together, there is a small quality difference almost in the fit and finish, not necessarily in the function of the wrenches. The Husky just is a little bit smoother on the adjustment, and it feels almost like there's less slop in it. The Doyle operates fine as a wrench, but just doesn't have the same refined quality to it. There's even a couple of sharp edges or little pointy bits on the rotating wheel. And then some of the finish that they have here on the Doyle just has some rougher edges or textures to it compared to what you're getting with a very consistent, even texture here. In terms of function, I think if you're going to be pricing these as individual items, meaning the Husky is going to be at $15.97, the Doyle at $12.99, there's no reason to go for the Husky necessarily, other than it just feels like a nicer tool. Doyle kind of takes a win here if you're going and just comparing the individual price of these two items. When you consider that right now you can get the Husky for there, if you can get the pricing on that promotional item, and you can pick it up at that price with two other wrenches, superior quality, that's where Home Depot would take the cake. So I guess it kind of depends on when you're going to be buying it, but kind of use that as your judge on which one to buy. All right, we're down to the second to last hand tool, and it's going to be that of a hammer. Now, over at Home Depot, I picked up this 16-ounce fiberglass Husky hammer. Very common, kind of entry-level hammer size. I think the refinement and kind of fit and finish of this hammer is superior. This one does come in at $13.97, but overall, I think you're getting a really solid hammer. Now, this is one area where definitely you start to see some of the value of Harbor Freight, where you're picking up this hammer, which is very similar in size and function, for $8.99. This is a Pittsburgh Pro hammer. Is it as nice a hammer? No. But does it function every bit as good? Yes. In practice, it does. But at $8.99 compared to $13.97, you're going to get every bit of function out of this hammer, in my opinion. So in this case, I think Harbor Freight wins with the price of the hammer. All right, now the last hand tool is going to be that of a tape measure. I went ahead and picked up a 16-foot tape measure from Husky over there. It does have a nice compact size. Overall, the blade is decent. Claims to have a 12-foot standout. I definitely got at least 10 feet in the store and just kind of testing it out. Now moving over to Harbor Freight, I went with the Bauer 25-foot, and I'll tell you why. I was going to get 16 to match 16, but this is one area where the quality of the tape measures just feels vastly inferior, in my opinion, to that of the the Husky. This feels more like a mini DeWalt or a mini Milwaukee tape measure. It's very similar in how robust it feels. This one, the plastic just feels a little bit cheaper. The belt clip feels cheaper. This one is $7.99 and is inferior in every way, in my opinion, to that of this. This is the better tape measure. Home Depot easily takes the tape measure category, in my opinion. Tool that we're going to be talking about is the Lone Power Tool. Now, I want to make mention of a drill that's not going to appear, but might be appealing to some homeowners for price-wise. And that's going to be that right now there is a $59 drill on sale for $49.97 over at Home Depot. It's a Ryobi drill, and they're selling it for a very enticing price for kind of that basic homeowner toolkit. But in my opinion, that tool is pretty garbage, even at that price point. It's rated at only 100 some odd inch-pounds of torque. It only has a single speed, only 600 RPMs. Now, the drill that I have here today is going to be $59.97. Now, I'm not a fan of this drill. It is not a good quality drill, but it is light years better than that other one for $10 more, and so that's why I've included this one today. Now, overall, you do get a 1/2 inch chuck on this. It is a non-ratcheting chuck. It is very easy, in my opinion, for the bit to slip out, and that's something that could be frustrating for a basic homeowner especially. Now, I initially was testing this tonight on a 1.5 amp hour battery. Battery must have been discharged a little bit because this drill would not do anything. So for testing, you will see it on a 2 amp hour. I will say that it functions a lot better on this battery. And I also went and picked up, for the exact same price, the Bauer brushed compact 1/2 inch drill. And this is a much better drill in every way. Even though I still think the quality of this drill is lacking, feels like it has more power, and it definitely performs like it has more power. You do get a 1/2 inch all metal chuck, although it is also not a ratcheting chuck. I did find it to hold on to bits a little bit better than the Ryobi. And right now, if you pick up this drill, you do get it with a bonus 1.5 amp hour battery. And I think having 2 batteries is nice for a homeowner. The caveat I'll give with both of these drills, even though, like I said, I do think the Bauer is the better of these 2 drills and will take it for Harbor Freight. When it comes to power tools, budget power tools just do not provide all that much power and performance like what you can get for just a little bit more money. Now, I've done videos each of the past 2 years featuring the best $99 drills that are on holiday pricing. You can go ahead and check those out. I'll make sure to have them linked below. Those drills at that $99 price point are going to offer significantly better function and performance. They're available from a variety of different brands, even at Harbor Freight. For that $97 price point, you can go get their top tier brushless Hercules drill that is going to have roughly twice as much power and performance as this drill. And so for that reason, especially on the power tools, going at this price point or that bottom tier price point is not necessarily one that I'd recommend. I might recommend you actually step up a little bit and get a better quality tool. Now, with this video, I wanted to go ahead and answer 3 questions. One is the information that you can get from AI going to be reliable in crafting a toolkit? Overall, I think it did pretty good. I think in this case, yes, AI gets a pass in terms of the information that it's going to provide. And even in this telling me what brands to go, it didn't lead me astray. I picked Husky for this, but you could very easily go and pick a similar Craftsman set with the exception of a flashlight, and it actually came in a few dollars less than what I would get from Home Depot with Husky, and you'd get very similar quality and performance in my opinion. Now, the second question that I wanted to do is, what is the quality of the tools you're getting? There's not a single Husky tool out here that was of inferior quality, and so for that reason, I think you get a solid pass on the Husky brand. The third question is, can I put together a better or superior toolkit for less money and going out and kind of hand-picking tools from different brands at Harbor Freight? That's the one where I'm going to say I did it for less money. Overall, the price I paid for them was only about $1 cheaper, and most of the Husky tools are nicer. Going into a store like Home Depot and just picking everything Husky resulted in some really nice quality tools and ones that I think would serve most individuals quite well. And so for that reason, let's go ahead and give AI the win in this territory. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button down below. If you have any questions about any of the tools I featured here, go ahead and let me know. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. And until next time, I'll catch you on Tinker with Tools.